So that said, I'm here to answer questions about the book or enter into conversations about anything germane to this entire subject. And I see we have a couple of other people who are also well equipped to speak about that. So happy to have my friend John Troy here. Thank you for coming, John. John is in North Carolina, and I'm here in Mexico. But John and I got to know each other some years back, and I must say, John has to take the blame for getting me into this situation of being online with this information.
Okay. Hello, Robert. This is Joost from Ireland. I'm originally from Holland. I live here for 2 years now. And we had a short contact via Facebook, via the chat. And I started reading the book after listening to all the things on YouTube. And I must say it comes in very nicely what I read and what I hear. And I don't know how it works, but it brings my heart to rest in a way. The seeker's heart, I mean. After years of seeking and reading, visiting teachers, things were quieting down already. But now your YouTube messages and the book, I've read some chapters, did do very well with me. So I want to thank you and express my gratitude. And here's my wife with coffee. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joost. I think you have a lot to be grateful for. Your wife is quite beautiful.
I am.
And the coffee.
Thank you.
Coffee won't hurt either. Well, I'm drinking coffee too. In fact, I have to get some. Yeah. It's strange being one-handed. At least it was the left arm that broke because I'm right-handed. All right. Anyone else? Well, let me comment then on why I think this book works so well. To begin with, I wasn't really expecting it to work this well. I like the book myself, but it's my book after all. But I began to get these reports from a lot of people saying this capsized my boat, this is the last book, this is the one that did it, that kind of thing. And I have spent quite a bit of time trying to understand that, including reading the book through again from start to finish, as if I were reading it for the first time. And I really think that the thing that the book has going for it is that most books in this field purport to explain to you how to wake up, how to be enlightened, or how to awaken. And I don't think the 10,000 Things ever does that at any point. I couldn't find a point where it tells you how to do anything. I think all it does is remove some of the presumptions and truisms that all of us have engraved in our minds. They were put there by others when we were just children. And I'm just providing some incentive to look at those and see if you really need them, and see if they are really valuable or not. Clearly, we all want to have some kind of comforting conviction that makes the world seem solid, or makes my being here seem greater than momentary. Whatever it is, my career, my family, we all want those things. But the truth is we don't have them. At any moment, all of that can go away, just like the use of my arm went away in a split second. And I think that is what I keep reiterating in the 10,000 Things that seems to get through to people. All you really have is now. That's all we ever have. We want to imagine that we're going to arrive at this destination and everything will be this way and that way, and it will be better than what I'm forced to suffer now. But when we look into it deeply, I think we have to admit that we don't really know that. We may believe it. We may believe that God is watching and taking care of everything, or that everything happens for a reason, or whatever the belief is. But when we look into it deeply, I think we're forced to admit that we don't really know that. And I think that is what a reader of the 10,000 Things will get from the book. If you just go through it, by the time you get to the end, I think those assumptions about life won't be there anymore. And I imagine that is what you were saying to me. Is that right?
That's very right. I didn't read a lot yet, but in every sentence it happens that I feel things falling away. And what you address is that the things that fall away we don't really need in this moment. And when I read it, it's only an inner yes. It's quite clear. There are no questions arising or something. It just falls in. There is a yes, and this recognition is great.
Thank you. That's a great comment. Anyone else wish to speak?
Robert?
Richard.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, except for the broken arm.
Yeah.
and the obvious signs of being almost 73 years old. Besides that, no worries.
Well, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
So you believe that all metaphysical claims are bullshit?
Is that the question?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe that all metaphysical claims are bullshit. I think that metaphysics is a very personal matter, and that getting your answers from someone else is bullshit.
Okay. So Johnny Come Lately is making claims about the nature of reality, and he's telling me that I need to meditate for 20 to 30 years, and then I can experience the truth that he has experienced. You're saying that what is it about his claim, or his claim to knowledge? He's claiming he knows something, and he's telling me how I can know that, like a method. He's giving me knowledge, and he's giving me a method to know. And so I could spend 30 years meditating and to verify his claim. That would be my whole life. My whole life would be spent. I'd have to put a lot of faith into that claim and that, right? I mean,
is that the question?
well, yeah, I'm just sort of I'm trying to break down what's happening here. I'm trying to like get at so somebody else makes a claim about the nature of reality and how to come to the truth that they have come to. I'm just trying to see what is it about the claim or the epistemology, the knowing. Where is the bullshit lie, or where is like where it's not, I guess it's not it's verifiable if I use his method, right? According to him.
No, I wouldn't say that it's verifiable if you use his method. To begin with, I don't know if there are any truths in that sense. That if there's one truth that represents reality, I really don't know if there is such a thing. That's a very, very big assumption. It's an assumption also that human beings have sufficient brain power on any level to comprehend the entire universe, of which we're only a tiny fragment, tiny tiniest part. So that's already a rather egotistical point of view that these gurus are putting out. I have attained such and such through higher reasoning. Well, how did you get the higher reasoning? Well, I stared at the wall for 30 years. And it became clear. Other people say other things, like Jesus loves you, and if you practice contemplation on the Holy Spirit, Jesus will appear to you. You'll hear his voice. And there are people who believe that. I'm not saying that any of that is bullshit. It's just unverifiable. And you don't have a way to verify it. This guy can tell you, meditate for 30 years, and you'll see it too. And you can meditate for the 30 years, and either you won't see it, and when you go to him, if he's still alive, probably won't be. So he's got that going for him. You can't sue the guy. But assuming he's alive, you go to him and say, man, I did everything you said for 30 years, and I didn't see that. Well, he's going to say, well, you didn't do it right. You have to do it right. And then, it's really like a joke. And then even if he has found something that he finds personally satisfying, how do you know that he isn't hypnotized? How do you know that meditation isn't a form of self-hypnosis? In my view, it almost always is. Not always. There is a state of deep contemplation that's worthwhile. You could have a kensho, an awakening experience, while you're having an orgasm. The thing is that as human beings, we have these experiences. We all do. But they're usually just momentary. And we don't notice that because we have this other script that's running. When do I get mine? What's for lunch? And these things keep us from noticing these moments of awakeness. Someone like me is a person who had a very undeniable experience of awareness. It was undeniable. And then I was forced to come to terms with it. But if that had not happened to me, I don't know if I would have the courage to meditate for 30 years. To gain what? Why would you? Here you are, a nice looking young fellow, you got your life ahead of you. I'm serious.
Yeah.
You know, why would you want to spend 30 years sitting on your butt? This is a beautiful world. There's so many things to do here. And if there's going to be an awakening, why can't it happen while you're doing those things?
Yeah.
All you really need to do, I say, is be attentive. And meditation, sitting on a cushion and all that stuff, that may be a way of being attentive for some people.
Okay.
But there's other ways of being attentive. Right now, in this moment, as you and I are conversing, what stops you from understanding that I'm not here except as a voice in your head and images on a screen that are in your brain? You have no way of verifying that there is such a thing as Robert. No way. It's all you. It's all taking place in your mind. Yes or no?
Well, yeah, I guess everything's taking place right here in this moment. In my mind, I'm sensing all the stuff that you're talking about. Image of you, the sounds of your voice, this body, my body. That's all here right now.
Yes. Well, you mentioned epistemology. That's a beautiful word, the E word. I love that word. For those who don't know that word. All it means is the study of what we know and how we can know it. How what we know can be known. On what can we rely to provide information? Well, Descartes, René Descartes, who was really big on epistemology, came up with this idea. He said, how do you know that everything you think you know and see isn't being created by some kind of evil magician? This is the words he used. And just put there in your mind. How do you know that? You have no way of knowing that. We have no way of knowing. This is a more up-to-date idea. For all we know, for all you know, you could be in the matrix. And this is all taking place through a programmed flow of ones and zeros that just creates this entire world. Well, some people, when I mention that idea, they say, well, that's a bit extreme or that's crazy. But I don't think it is. I don't mean that we're living in the matrix. You know, that's sci-fi. But it's real in the sense that we have no way of verifying that there's an outside world, that there's a world beyond this mind. We actually have no way of verifying that. And I think if one can admit to himself or herself that that is our actual epistemological posture or situation, then you are awake. Then you are in what John Troy calls not knowing. You're in the situation. It's not that I'm not saying that there is no outside world. That then I would be knowing that, which I don't know. What I'm saying is I have no way of knowing if there's an outside world. No way. And so I'm in the posture of radical not knowing. And that's what I call being awake. See, the gurus that you mentioned, that is not what they mean. When they say awake, what they mean is you're going to find out that you and God are one and the same, or you and Brahma are identical, or whatever their sales pitch is. And I'm saying no one will ever know such a thing. You could be deluded, you could be hypnotized. I'll say one more thing. I like to go on these rants sometimes. It's ridiculous, really. These teachers, they could be entirely deluded, entirely. They're smart people, otherwise they wouldn't have a following. They're well-spoken, they know how to sit on a stage, dressed beautifully and surrounded by flowers, they speak very well, and they say with absolute certainty, I know reality, I know truth, this is the truth, and you just have to listen to me and I will give you the path, and you follow it step by step, and you arrive. And I agree. If you follow that path, you will arrive. But the question is, where will you arrive? You might arrive at Vedanta. You might arrive at Vedanta. But if you follow another path, you might arrive at Buddhism. And then the Buddhists and the Vedantists can get together and argue because they don't agree on what reality is. They entirely disagree about what reality is. I don't know if a lot of spiritual students understand that, but there's not one truth that everyone agrees on. If there were, that would make this a different proposition. Then you would just say, am I in the club or I'm not in the club? But there's so many clubs.
Yeah.
And which one do you want? Yes?
Yeah. I often also wonder how much freedom or choice a person really has in when it comes to belief and believing. You know, I've tried over the past many years. I've tried to believe in the various cults out there, the old ones and the new ones, and it didn't stick. So, I mean, I'm that kind of person. You seem to be that kind of person where it just didn't stick. But obviously some people, it sticks, you know, the holy rollers, if you will, you know, like, um, maybe I was just born this way and they were just born that way. And the guru was just born in a way, so he's going to tell me I'm consciousness, right? And I'm going to sit there and say, well, I don't know. I don't know. You know, I mean, we're all kind of like pawns in this believing game, maybe.
Well, that's really a good point. There is different psychological types, and it's not one size fits all. And if someone is the bhakti type and they want to have a shrine in the house and bow to that and believe that by enough prostrations, eventually they will become enlightened, I'm not in a position to say that's wrong. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I have never tried to talk anyone out of a spiritual practice. My entire thrust here is only to speak to people who have tried all those things and have found it unset. They're saying, gee, I've been doing this for 15 years. When do I get it?
Yeah.
Yes. So, if prayer works for you, then by all means pray. I can't do it because I can't believe that there's some outside force that's going to hear what I'm saying and respond to it. I just don't believe that. I never did. I didn't believe it when I was 6 years old, and all the other kids were getting a religious education, and I couldn't grok it, and I still can't. But I understand that my way of seeing things is unusual, and I'm not trying to foist it off on anyone. Please believe me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not even trying to sell my book. I mean, I have no financial interest in the book. So I have nothing to gain here. It's just sharing. It's because I find this interesting. I'm an old man and I'm retired. And this is what I'm doing with my life. But I don't, no truth claims coming from Robert Saltzman, not at all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Very good question, Richard. Who's the next victim to set Robert off on another rant?